Do you want to know how to teach a child who doesn't want to learn? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, and how to build strong family bonds. I also teach education. All over the world, I'm asked to speak at education conferences because of all the work that I did with my children in the homeschooling area of education. And in this video, we're going to be talking about how to help children desire to learn. In this video, we're going to be talking about why children might not want to learn and then what you can do to help them have a desire to learn. One mistake that people make when a child does not want to learn is they start to push more and more learning at the child. It could be that the child isn't ready for something. It could be that the environment isn't right. It could be that there's stress or anxiety getting in the way and they don't want to admit it. It could be that they're bored with the material. There are a lot of different reasons why a child might not want to learn. They could feel like they don't really understand or care why this is important. How many times do we hear a child say, well, but why? Why do I have to know this? And people give the most ridiculous answers. They start talking about their future jobs and they say, well, because you need to get a job someday. Guess what? You can get a lot of really amazing jobs and not go to university and even sometimes not graduate from high school. So that's not a very good reason to give a person. However, there is a type of social signaling that comes with finishing your academics that shows somebody, an employer, that you might be a promising prospect. And so chances are, if you do get the job, you might make more money than somebody else who has a lesser education than you. They might give you a signing bonus, something like that, because they really want to recruit you, because you have a signaling thing, that diploma that shows I got done. The child doesn't understand all of that, but you might have to explain a few of those things if it really gets down to it. Like, people actually look at certain things and it could hold you back. Whether it really matters on your education or not isn't even really relevant when it comes to signaling to employers or people who will look at your resume in the future. Sometimes we have to get down to the nitty-gritty with them, but sometimes our children are making a point. The things that they are studying don't seem like they have a point for their lives. How does knowing how to solve a quadratic equation actually help a regular person in everyday life? Probably not that much. The majority of the things that we learn in school, we end up forgetting. And we are now just a person who's been through or matriculated through a program. Our children need to have something more than just a desire to get done with it. A desire to get done with education isn't motivating enough. They have to want something more. So this is where we find the juxtaposition of you have to get through the material, but you really want to get the material through you. If the child gets the material through them, then they become inspired and motivated. But if it's always just about get through the material, the inspiration is lost with all of the requirement. Years ago, when I started homeschooling, I came across an educator named Oliver DeMille, and he had started a university and had written prolifically about education. He had been mentored by some really incredible people, and they studied education intently. And they put together a formula for education that intrigued me. And this was something that I stuck to throughout the years of homeschooling my children. Some of the principles of education that he shared was that to have a really great education, what he called a leadership education, a person needed to be inspired, not required, to do their education. They needed to want it. Otherwise, it wasn't going to matter. It wasn't going to sink in. It wasn't going to go anywhere, even if they got through all of the material. And I agreed with that. He also talked about the type of things that you select to teach a person with. He talked about classics versus textbooks. Textbooks are dry, very rarely engaging. Sometimes gathering facts can be interesting, but most of the time, if you don't have some sort of a classical root behind it, then it just seems like it's just facts for the sake of facts and it's going nowhere. Sometimes they have to have a deeper connection to the information that you're trying to deliver to them. So when your child is acting like they don't want to learn or they just don't care, then let's rethink education for a minute. Do we only get educated by reading textbook in a school classroom? No, there are a lot of different things that we do to educate. Maybe you need to pick up a hobby, start fixing old cars or quilting or baking or something like that. Come up with a project that you want to work on. Maybe you want to work on a marathon and study training or something like that. Or maybe the child wants to get into a particular sport like fencing and they want to study the history of that. Help them see that something they're already interested in has a history, has a story, and help them learn about that. Many people since COVID are homeschooling their children because they found that that really worked well for their family and for their children. But what they're doing is just a whole bunch of online have-tos or lots of times just textbooks, but then at home. And they wonder why their child is not having a good time when so many people rave about homeschooling. Well, it's because when you're really homeschooling, you can jump into the things that engage you and bring all of your academics into that subject instead of having to go through a curriculum all the way from start to end. That doesn't mean a child should never learn how to do that. It's okay to learn how to go through the grueling things, but that usually happens in later phases of education. So there are different phases of education. Oliver DeMille talks about this in his book called A Thomas Jefferson Education. And he talks about how it isn't until the middle part of the scholar phase of education, which is the third phase of education, which usually happens between the ages of 12 and 18 years old, give or take. Some people never get all the way through a scholar phase, but that during this time, there's a moment when the person wants to be restricted, wants to do something super uncomfortable, wants to go through an entire curriculum, like oftentimes is suggested when the child is much younger, but it just isn't inspiring for them. In fact, it oftentimes creates a hate of learning. If your child has a hate of learning, then you need to give your child the opportunity to have a little bit more freedom in the learning so that they see the learning is actually a good thing. It could just be that the subjects aren't really appealing to them at the time, but there could be other subjects that seem worth learning to them. Find those things so that your child is inspired. And be patient. Sure, keep helping them through the process. You might have to still keep putting in a little bit of time each day on those mathematics so that you don't lose that skill. But over time, if you're also studying something that interests them, they will finally launch off into whatever it is that they are supposed to do with a passion. Just make sure that the learning atmosphere stays alive. Don't have a lot of distractions or things getting in the way, and make sure that you're always there to discuss at the same time. It is important that your child takes ownership over their education so that they properly invest in the process. If they think it's something that happens to them instead of something they choose to do, they will not have a good experience and certainly will not become inspired. In our family, we had meetings every week with our children. They were both parents with one child, talking about the child's goals and pursuits. We would talk long-term, we would talk short-term, and we filled out something called the mentor journal. Each one of our children had one of these mentor journals, and you can find these at teachingselfgovernment.com, where all of my other parenting things are. This book was a place for them to list their schedule for the week, as well as their goals in key areas of their lives, academics included. This was a time where they could choose what they wanted to learn, what they wanted to pursue, and we would find the time to put it into their life. This made life enjoyable for them. It made it so that every other pursuit seemed doable. Have meetings with your children regularly. Check up with them on how they're doing with their academics, and let them know that you know it's their choice whatever they do with their academics. They can't blame anybody else but themselves. They have to decide what they want to love to learn, and they have to decide to put in that time. That doesn't mean you can't schedule time blocks. Sometimes time blocks can really help. Sometimes we try to have a child sit for the whole time of doing the whole math lesson, when that might not be what they need yet. We might need to take things incrementally and just do 15 or 20 minutes a day instead of sitting for the entire lesson. Keep that in mind, block the time, maybe mix the time up a little bit, and don't do every subject every day. If there is one thing that drums out a love of learning, it's doing every subject every single day. Now, I'm pretty sure you might want to know more about education and some of the things I'm talking about. There are some websites that you can go to. So I have a home education website that's called heartofhomeschool.net, and there are multiple trainings there completely for free where you can learn principles of education that could be quite life-changing for you. There's also another website. It's my parenting website. I'm known the most around the world for the parenting principles and skills that I teach. That website is teachingselfgovernment.com. You can go there to find out more about how to help your child take ownership of all of their behaviors, not just academics.